Itlanatea, Sisi Tanchai Suye. How are you, everyone? My name is Tanchai Redbirds. I am a Dene Métis Two-Spirit creator, facilitator, public speaker, writer, multidisciplinary performer who is currently based out of Tikarano, which is Dish with One Spoon territory, but I am from Treaty 8 territory in the Northwest Territories, which is also known as Denende, and my pronouns are they, them.
I was obsessed with Ryan Felipe. After watching Cruel Intentions and 54, oh my God, I just couldn't even. Like, I had like posters of him in my room. Like,
did you really?
I did.
Julia Roberts, like my favorite human on the planet, biggest crush ever.
It was like women that were like, I thought were cool, or like Mrs. Oh, I shouldn't say the names. A gym teacher. Wonderful lady. And yeah, so
wonderful
I think my
lady.
first like actual crush where I was like, okay, this is for sure not just like a little feeling that isn't something more, would be like the phys ed teacher and the Spanish teacher. She was beautiful.
It would be somebody that is somewhere outside the norm, that makes their own rules, as somebody that doesn't necessarily fit into the typical roles that you want them to fit into, and they're just themselves.
And I think mine would probably be Laverne Cox.
Oh.
She's a Black trans actress. Just have a lot of respect for trans folks, Black folks that are up against so much and have to fight a lot more than a lot of us do, and everything that she's had to overcome to get to where she is, and just seems like a very amazing person every time I've seen an interview and such. So she's probably a favorite of mine, I would say.
And I would add to that and say somebody along the lines of like Billy Porter as well, who he just came out as HIV positive, and that's a really difficult thing, I would think, to do publicly. And we need more of that. We need more people that are pushing people's perceptions of what they think certain things are, particularly in some of the more rural areas where they don't know anybody who's HIV positive, and they just think it's what it was in the 80s and 90s, and there's still a lot of stigma associated with it, and there really shouldn't be, right? So I think somebody like him who's really brave enough to do things before they're popular is admirable.
A few performers that really inspire me, local to our Indigenous community. One of them is Shawnee, who is a Two-Spirit singer-songwriter. They have incredible music. One of their songs, Warrior Heart, is just like, speaks to your soul. Highly recommend checking them out. Another queer performer is Gonaher Devery Jacobs, who is a queer Mohawk actress who has been like making waves in terms of mainstream media representation as a queer Indigenous woman. And then the other one I want to shout out is Jeremy Dutcher, who is an incredible Two-Spirit, also singer-songwriter, who infuses like incredible traditional melodies into his songs. And yeah, so those are three folks that I highly want to shout out and highly want to recommend folks to go check out.
Like Vivek Shraya, fantastic. Alok Venamon, amazing. Cyrus Marcus Ware is also a fantastic person to follow. There's a lot of queer and trans folks of color that are doing amazing things in the world, and I encourage people to connect with them. Following people on Instagram that are real life people that have put their hand up to be leaders in this space or to really showcase themselves is a really great way of getting a bit of like an inside scoop of what it is like day to day and what the folks experience. So knowing that, get some IRL experience as well as what's behind the camera lens.
Like, it's saying like, yeah, I'm coming out and I want the world to know. But they're not songs that were like, put our gay anthem on and it's Diana Ross. So, I mean, maybe sometimes, but like, yeah, we don't really have like...
I think lesbians have different gay anthems than gay males, in my opinion, because I don't think that question would be a problem for any of my queer male friends, because they've got their songs.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
And this is a really specific song. And it reminds me of, again, when I was younger, late 90s, early 2000s, figuring things out. Queer as Folk was a really big show for me, and just being able to see what queer life was like, and different characters, and seeing that through the screen was pretty amazing. And one of the big songs on that show was called Proud by Heather Small. And I just remember just being obsessed with that song. And I don't listen to it that often anymore, but whenever I hear it and I play it, it sort of just warms my heart and makes me think of that time. And when you listen to the words, it's very much about like respecting yourself and figuring out who you are and being proud of it.
More of a rallying cry than it is an anthem, which is nothing about us without us. And I think that that's a really important rallying cry for anyone. I think it might have been started actually by disability activists in the 1940s or in the 1970s. It has quite a long history of being utilized by activists. And I love the idea of having a really strong movement, but having it alongside of the folks that movement is for. So nothing about us without us is something that I think about a lot when I'm doing my work and also just being myself.
Too athletic, too strong, too, all of these things where I almost didn't feel like I fit in with girls ever as a kid. Which now that I'm older, it's fun to be a strong woman and not be like,
like me, like help.
When I was really young, I was so much more athletic, and I hated clothes that had anything that resembled female anything. And, all of those things when you're young and you're supposed to be this certain person is hard. And now I'm so grateful that I'm just myself and I can be strong and I can be whatever and it doesn't matter.
One thing that I have always hated about myself growing up was my basically non-existent breasts. Because as a little cis girl in a small town, bullying was a very real thing. And around the puberty age, when all of the girls and my friends started to grow their boobs and shop for bras, mine didn't come in. And so that was a big source of a shame for me, because at that point in my life, boobs were kind of associated with femininity and being a woman. And so that was something that I really, really struggled with and got a lot of shit for from other girls, from guys in my class. And now I'm like, I love the fact that I don't have any, because now I feel so much more comfortable in my skin with my masculine and non-binary identity. And it actually comes in very handy, because when I perform as a drag king or just in my life, sometimes I will bind my chest or tape my chest, and I really don't need much and I don't really need to. So it's kind of worked out.
I don't know that I fully love and own it yet, but I try. And it'll be interesting to see the outcome of this video, because this is kind of topical of this thing. I'm going to say it's my voice. And hearing myself on a video and hearing certain little things that maybe I'm the only one that can hear them, but little lispy kind of things, or, like gay voice. Like I remember being a teenager and seeing things of myself and be like, oh my God, everybody knows. They can see it from a mile away. And I just hated that. And I put a lot of effort into, I guess, enunciating very well and not lisping, and I don't know. So I think that I still sometimes, when I hear myself speak, if it's a voicemail message or something, I still kind of cringe a little bit. So that's a work in progress.
For me, I think it was like a huge part of just accepting who I was in all of my shapes and forms. And for me, as a South Asian person, as someone who's socialized female growing up, that would be body hair. Is something that I was really mindful of. I was like getting like threading, waxing, laser, all of it. And it was painful, all to achieve something. And I think I started grooming my body hair at, I think at like age 11 or 12. So really early on. And I remember that moment where I just let things grow and I actually really liked how it looked. And I was like, okay, this is a very new experience for me. I don't know if it had as much to do with my like transition, because I think a transition is a misleading term. It's as though you're going to have any sort of destination. And for me, my identity is just on this like ongoing journey, and everyone transitions differently or doesn't at all. But for me, a part of that journey was falling in love with my body hair. And I think it's really great. I just actually trimmed my little fuzz this morning, and I was doing it so lovingly. It was great.
Pen, like, maybe your superpower is that when you want to build something, she literally like looks a YouTube video up and she's like building. Like, she's building. That's her gay superpower, but
I love power tools.
she loves power tools. I think ultimately, if I look at who I am and what being gay has actually given to me, is the superpower of being able to be compassionate towards everybody. Like, there's no judgment. There's no questioning why somebody would choose whatever they're choosing.
That's a good one. I think that going through all that makes you kind of open to everyone's different desires and lifestyles, and
Totally.
you know, without judgment, because you know what it's like to feel like an outcast.
I have this fantastic colleague, and the way that he refers to it, he actually says that being queer, being gay is his superpower. And I have to say, I feel the same. I feel like being who I am, being a trans person of color, that is my superpower. Like, really not only embodying who I am, but having it be like something that makes me powerful, makes me strong, makes me unique, gives me all the gifts that I have in the world, and then utilizing those gifts.
I'm very open and vocal about my story, about my journey, about my hardships, my trauma, my learnings, my queer and my sexual and gender identity. It's something that I've been very open about, and I advocate a lot for 2S LGBTQ folks and communities. And what's been most amazing as a part of this journey is I've had people in my life actually come out to me and share with me that I was a big part of their journey in realizing or coming to terms with their identity, and giving them the strength or courage to come out themselves, because I was so open and vocal and public about it. So I think it's really cool to know that in sharing my story, I have helped other people feel more comfortable about themselves, to the point where they finally felt like they could also explore and be their authentic selves. So I think that's a pretty cool superpower.
I don't think I have a great answer for that one. Like Mike Pence, I don't know.
Wrestling, like world wrestling entertainment. Like,
that's a really good one, because you're absolutely right. It's shocking that straight men are so into watching men in singlets fondle each other, like,
and frolic,
and it's really quite shocking, actually.
And it's a soap opera too. Like, you follow the drama between the different characters, and I just find that it's very it's queer, but it's not queer.
No, that's a really, really, really good answer, because that it seems like it's something that would be designed by gay men.
Yeah,
you know.
But no, I mean, if gay men were to do that, it wouldn't be done the way it's done.
The first thing that popped in my head, I'm just gonna say because I thought it was hilarious, is men's bike shorts. I don't know why, but like their tights they wear, I don't know why that popped into my head, but
they are kind of like gay, but not.
Sport locker rooms. That's it. Sports locker rooms seems very queer, but it's not.
What seems like it's queer, but it's not? Interesting. I would say everything is queer, but that's because maybe it's because I am queer. I swear everything is queer. Like, nature is queer, art is queer, fashion, cooking. Like, what isn't queer is a question. That is a question that I want to know more than anything, because I think things that people think are straight, like sports, are actually very queer. You know, when you think about maybe the origin of the sport or who some of the most amazing folks doing the sport are, or and what they believe or who they support or who they love. You know, I think queerness is a political mindset as much as it's an identity, and it's a framework that I think a lot of people could learn from.
I would say if they could bottle up the smell of bathhouse at 2 a.m.
It's basically a mixture of poppers, lube, and I don't want to say what else.
I often, rub some lavender oil around my temples, or I'll put it in a essential oil diffuser, just to really chill out, because it's stressful being queer. It's amazing. There's a lot of queer joy. There's so much trans joy, but you get asked so many questions, and you can't just exist a lot of times, or you butt up against so much hate or so much discrimination that a little bit of lavender can go a long way.
Wet moss. I grew up on the land, and I also am a writer, and I use a lot of land metaphor in my writing, and I am very passionate about decolonizing sexuality and gender. And so the smell of wet moss, I have to say, is probably very queer to me. Oh. Yes. Yes. It got so much better, and I wish that my younger self knew that it was going to get better, because it was very, very difficult for a very long time. And it got so much better. You grow, you change, but the most important thing is you find your people, you find your community, you find the people who love you for who you are and want to see you thrive and be successful, and who are, going to be there for you. And I think a lot of my life was feeling like I didn't have that community, or I didn't have those people around me. And now I'm surrounded by the most incredible queer community, and I will say like a multitude of queer communities that I couldn't have imagined that I would have ended up where I am. So it does get better.
I think sometimes when we talk about things getting better, it's about a chronological thing, about me getting older and therefore getting better. Did it get better in the sense where I settled into myself and I figured out, some aspects of myself? Absolutely. Do I wish that would have happened sooner? Did I have to go through those trials? I really hope that's different for other people, that they don't have to wait 40, 41 years to get to a point where they look in the mirror and they don't feel the ways that I used to feel, or, have someone look back at you and not see the person that they expect you to be, and have that pain be reflected in someone that you love in their eyes. But I can't say that there aren't moments that doesn't still happen. And so I think what got better is my ability to ask for help. What got better was my acknowledging that I can only change what I have control over, and I need to let go of other things. And that sometimes means letting go of people and relationships as well. But I do think that community goes a long way, and I do think that we're at a point where we're no longer asking for change, but demanding it. And so in that sense, I do think things are getting better. But thank goodness for all the folks that fought for us, and a lot of the trans women of color that did that work. And I want to honor them and their legacy, because if not for them, we would not be here.
We are treated very well here, and we're just like any other family. So it gets way better.
I'd love to say to somebody, like, it doesn't just get better, it gets great. And it's very true.
Yeah, 100%.